BeastNet is brought to you by James Safety Services in partnership with OCR Buddy and OCR Strong. Here we discuss all things OCR and fitness related. Welcome to BeastNet.
Hey everybody, it's Mike with BeastNet here, and today I've got with me Adam. Adam, how do you actually pronounce your last name? It's Bergenheimer?
Bergenheimer.
Bergenheimer. Okay, there we go. I've always wondered, I've known you for years, and it's kind of one of those, I've heard it like 20 million different ways. It's like, all those things when you hear some of those actors that are suddenly like, oh yeah, that's not how you pronounce my name. And it's like, oh shit, that's how I've always done it though.
Yeah. If it's any condolence, I didn't know how to spell it till like fourth grade. We had to use the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse song to actually get me to learn how to spell my last name.
Oh,
now you're going to be thinking about that song.
I'm going to be. So, but nice. So it's good to talk to you. Kind of introduce yourself to the listeners. It's been a long time. You were on a lot of the really, really, really early episodes, but, introduce everyone on who you are.
Sure. So I'm Adam Bergenheimer. I'm with Beasts Obstacle Course Racers. Really amazing group of people in the Pacific Northwest that just like to go play in the mud. That's how I met you, Mike. That's how I've met some of the other folks. And after that, I think I just like to race and get muddy and do stupid things, do some work for Spartan as part of their Cryptia team, part of their obstacle specialist instructor team. So one of the guys that teach you how to, go do stuff. Maybe for folks that haven't done it before, it's kind of fun to see people have the light bulb moment when they go, oh, that's how I do that. Right. So that's really fun. And
I think those are a lot of fun. I would say those are a lot interesting for people who've done it for years, because sometimes those specialists have an idea of doing something in a way that you're like, I never thought of that.
Like taking a minute to break down like the J versus S hook for rope climbs, or for, you get some folks that are just hulking, right? And they're just, oh, I'm going to do it all arms. And that's cool. But like maybe just taking a minute to sit down and say, this is what it actually looks like, feel around with it and try it. And sometimes, like even for veterans, right, they have this light bulb moment and go, wow, I knew how to climb a rope, but this is a little easier. It's really cool to see.
It is. It's one of those, like for me, like with the climbing the rope, I kept trying the J hook for years. Everyone would show me how to do it. I could never quite figure it out. And it was one of our friends finally said, Brian, said, sit down and sit in a chair with just a rope and try it. And I'm like, why? But I did it. I sat down and did it while I was sitting down, not when I was trying to hang from the rope. And I got my legs figured out. I'm like, okay, I figured the movement now. And then suddenly walked over to a rope, jumped on it, and for the first time in like years, just whoop, right up the top of the rope. And I'm like, oh, okay. And sometimes that's what it takes. It just takes, a lot of those SGX, and those, specialist coaches, that's what happens. They'll show you something. You're like, I've been doing this, working so hard to try and do this in a way that just isn't right for years.
I had to sit down for the S hook. I could do the J hook, but the S one, for whatever reason, like getting on the rope and in the air, like I'd panic, I couldn't find it, and then I'd freak out and I'd come back down and I gotta redo it. And even today, like I can do the S hook, I can teach it, I can spot it, I can be like, okay, now move your foot right here. But I suck at it still. I can do it. It's not pretty.
And that's it. Some of us like the J hook, some like the S hook. I'm not good with the S hook. I'm better with the J hook. The only problem I have that I've been trying to figure out, and it's one of the only reasons I wear like shin guards now, or not shin guards, but something over my shins, is because if I don't, doing the J hook, when I come back down, I tear my legs up.
I'm right there with you.
And I have like on one of, I think it's my left leg, I actually have a scar from doing Vegas 2 years ago, where I went up and, because I did them both competitive, and I hit the rope on both of them, and I tore my leg up on the super on the first day, and the second day doing the sprint, just tore it up even more, and it's like, people are looking at me as I'm running the last little bit, like, you're bleeding. And I'm like, I know, that's fine.
I think now that you mention it, I think if we were to go ask people that started racing, 2012, 13 to like 16, 17, I bet you a good chunk of them probably have a rope burn scar somewhere. Oh, yeah. like shins or not, like they probably got one. Maybe it was the first time they ever did a rope, maybe the first time since, high school and gym or whatever. and like they're like, oh, I got this, and they come back down and they go, oh, it's right there.
Yep. We've all, yeah, and it's one of those. I mean, it's fun to figure out though. It's like, that's one of the things that I love about like coaches, the SGX coaches, and everything else is they help us figure out what we've been doing forever, but doing it a different way. I mean, sometimes it's one of those things we may have been doing it for years, but then we see a different way, and we're like, oh yeah, this works much better.
Oh yeah, and it could be something like you might know how to do it really, really well. You might have the technique down. You might have, you might feel very comfortable at the top of the rope or any exercise or movement. And it could be just somebody else coming and looking at you with, an eye for it and saying, have you tried shifting your weight like an inch this way? I just went through that with some weightlifting stuff with a snatch. Just the way that I was receiving the barbell in the snatch position was like 2.5, 3 inches too far forward, and it was throwing off my weight. And with a little bit of practice shifting it back, all of a sudden I could add another 225 kilo plates, and I was feeling great. But before then, I just couldn't do it. And right, that's not that big of a difference.
No, it's not. And I've seen that on a few other things where all of a sudden just having, and that's one thing I think a lot of people make mistakes is we get into that whole mindset of, oh, I've been doing this for years, I know how to do it. And that's why a lot of trainers I talk to still have a trainer themselves, because they're like, you'd be surprised how many times watching somebody and then all of a sudden you go to do it yourself, and then another trainer's like, if you tweak just a little bit this way, and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's something I would have told my, but you don't look at yourself.
I 100% agree. I've got a nutrition coach and a personal coach just for that, just to catch those little things, right? Am I crazy? Is this a good plan? This is what I've been doing. This is how I'm feeling. Am I missing something? This is the technique I'm trying. This is the food I'm having, right? Man, and you know what? I think the other part of it too is sometimes, forking down a couple extra bucks helps you stay accountable to whatever you're trying to do. And plus, like, as somebody who's, I've helped people out with stuff and, cheered them on, like, I don't want to ever be the guy that somebody looks at and somebody's like, oh, that coach needs a coach. Like, yeah. Coach has a coach. He's working on it, but
Well, and and I think that's the hardest part with a lot of this. We all have our ups and downs. It's like one of those things, like right now I'm beating myself up because, doing, right before COVID, I mean, before everything, I was big. I was a big boy. And then I dropped down to like 180, but I mean, I'm back up to about 235 now. And it's one of those things, and I keep beating myself up. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I've taken a break since September after Ironman, after my body was just like, dude, time to step back, and took that break to let my body have that rest. And now it's like, okay, now I'm getting like looking in the mirror like, oh, but I'm still not at the 310 I was before COVID. But, it's still just kind of that, and then you start getting on yourself and other people look at you like, oh, what happened? And you're like, dude, I took a break. I let my body have the rest it needed. And now it's time to get back to work, and that's kind of, sometimes we have those, waves.
I've had them too, right?
Yeah. And like I said, that's why sometimes when you see those people and they're like, oh, the trainer needs a trainer. We don't know which part of their training they're on. Maybe they're on that one where they took 2 years of pushing their body and their body went, oh, well, hold on. And they're being a smart person and actually stepping back for a minute. And I've seen a lot of that where I've seen a trainer that you're looking at like, why would I want to be trained from that person?
How's this person an expert?
Yeah. How's this person an expert? Look at them. It's like, because they're an expert in the fact that they knew that they hit a point that sometimes you need a break. And that's the hardest part for most of us, is knowing when we need to step back.
I was going through a class with Team USA weightlifting about a month and a half ago. And the gal, she's been coaching Olympic weightlifters, and a bunch that went to like the Olympics on several occasions, some record hold. Like, she's got an accolade list like just longer than dirt, man. It's incredible. She's been coaching like 25, 30 years. And she goes, you get to a certain point where like you might not be able to perform those things or look at those things. She goes, especially as you age, but some of the best coaches, they don't look like they could ever do it, but they've got the mentality. And she goes, and you kind of see that sometimes, like you see like high school or college sports, or even in like professional football courses, you're like, that's the defensive coordinator. Like, that guy doesn't look like he could make a 100-meter run, but like the guy knows his stuff. You never know, right? So you can't judge a coach on the outside. I mean, I know a lot of people do, but you never know.
They do. I mean, it's one of those things, you judge a book by its cover. It's just, I mean, it's human nature, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it is one of those things, like you said, I've seen a lot of those where you're sitting there and there was, I can't remember who it was. It was one of the like, and it was, I don't know if it was a defensive coach or an offensive coach, but it was one of the sideline coaches on a team. And I saw him and I'm like, wow. And then all of a sudden they like showed some picture of him like when they were younger and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
never mind. It's like, or it's one of those ones like you're looking at him like, who's that guy? Then they say the name, and you're like, wait, what? That, this guy was like a beast when he was in the league, and you're like, oh, okay, he's just getting older. We all do that. You all get older, and I mean, things age. I mean, not all of us can be that. What was his crazy name? Jack, whatever, that was gonna live forever because he worked so hard and then died anyway.
Oh yeah, the juice guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, who I think is a good example is Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, like I've heard people jab at him like, oh, the legend who lost it. Like he's lost it with age. It was like, first off, that guy looks great for his age. And I'm pretty sure like he can break my face with his bicep. Like flex it and I'm gone. Like, and the guy still goes after it. And like, like the thing is our fitness changes with age. And sometimes, that means like you might have a little bit of a belly. You might have skin that moves in funny places. You might have some weird bumps, but that means, you're probably a healthy human being and you maybe have balance and maybe you're focusing on enjoying life a little bit more than like going and repping out 10,000 reps every day at the gym. And that's okay.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, we all grow in different ways, either whether it be physically, mentally, everything else. And I think that's kind of some of it too. It's just your priorities change.
Yeah.
All of us had different priorities, 5-6 years ago than we do right now. So, I mean, it's, shoot, 4 years ago, I was in a completely different industry,
I was a completely different person 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago. I hear you. I gained a lot of weight in 2020, right? COVID hit me. I was just struggling like with who I am, what I was doing, how I was engaging folks. I lost a lot of people that year. We lost 8 folks between family and friends, lost one of my best childhood friends, just gone. And I got really depressed and gained almost 70 pounds, like in 8 months. 8.5, 9 months, just nothing, right? And like I think honestly that was just a physical manifestation of everything that was going on in here, right? And I hear you, man. That's what things are: life, fitness, running, exercise. It's an up and down journey. And you have to feel the bad ones with the stride of the good ones too.
Yeah, it's an up and down journey, and we all take it. And I mean, we all grow. And I mean, if you're not growing, you're not doing anything. It's kind of one of those things when you see those people, who sit on the couch, not doing anything, not changing, not growing. Maybe they're happy with it, but that's, then a lot of us that are out doing stuff, we do, we keep like our main little core group a lot of times, but other than that, things grow. We move, in between, different things, and things happen, and it's all on how we grow with it and keep going. So
yeah, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that perspective. I think, if one thing, and tell me if this sounds like a crazy, and we're getting deep here.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like in general, in the last several years, since the advent of the pandemic, I feel like people are a little bit more receptive and supportive of the fact that everyone's on a different journey. And, we never know what they're dealing with. And we should probably, not be an ass. Right? Or at least maybe that's just me.
I think it's true in a lot of ways. I mean, in a lot of ways, because I think it was one of those things. I mean, it was during the pandemic when everyone's like, oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And where everyone else came back and said, no, we're all doing this differently.
Yeah.
We're all getting through this differently. Some people got through it like I did. I went out and ran because to me, I had to do something. So, and running was my thing. I'd go out and I'd run, and it was the one thing that made me feel normal.
Yeah.
Where before everything else was just sitting around. You couldn't go to the restaurant. You couldn't do this. I couldn't go to comedy. I couldn't do any of the stuff that I normally did. So it's like, well, I'm going to go run then. Yeah. And that became my new normal. And that's kind of one of those things. But other people, they dealt with it just by like locking themselves in the house and staying there, which is fine. Yeah. Everyone had their own way of doing it. And I think that's it. I think it is a little more accepting of everyone has their own. We're all on our own journey.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I totally agree.
Man. So I know with Beast, you've got some new stuff coming up. I saw the new races. I did see those.
Yeah.
I've been intrigued by what we have there. So what are those?
So Trail Mix is kind of a catch-all. I even think years ago you and I had talked about doing a trail race in the area. So it's a May 20th this year. It's going to be our first year doing it. And we have kind of 3 sections. We have a 5K trail race for folks that want a traditional 5K. They want to go as fast or slow as they want. A lot of technical running. Can't go wrong with the classic trail race 5K. It's awesome, very approachable, right? And for a lot of people, 5K is terrifying, right? So it's a really good introductory, I think, race for people that maybe they've done 5Ks and now they want to try a trail one. Maybe they want to get off pavement. So I wanted to have something there. That's kind of our first option. Then we have 2 other ones, and the other ones are 10-hour time frame, and it's as much or as little as you want. And it's really meant to just give folks an avenue to test themselves in whatever they want to test themselves. So we've got, of the 2 10-hour segments, there is a 10-hour running division. So the course for the 10-hour divisions, both the running and the hybrid athlete one, I'll get to in a minute. The course is actually just shy of about 8 kilometers. Little extra fun things, some extra fun pathways, and there's some stations along the way for additional challenges and what have you. For the running one, it's just as how far can you go in the time frame you have on that trail as much as you'd like, right? And I'm actually really excited. We just moved over to Ultra Sign Up this year. So what we can do is we have a monitor that we can have live results for both the multi-lap and the 5K. So not only are we doing our first one ever, but we're going to be able to display like live results as we input them on like a lap basis or finish basis. Never done that before.
Nice.
I'm like super jazzed about that. I just think it's so cool. And then we have the hybrid athlete division. So that one's kind of like the rucking meets a little bit of strongman meets a little bit of like ridiculousness. And instead of laps for like competitive time, it's all based on points. So each lap, of course, has many points as you'd like, but there's additional options. Like you could do a burden lap where you have, you know, a ruck and you're going out and you also have a sandbag with you. You get a couple extra points for that one. There's also a couple fun stations along the way that are totally optional. It's if you want to do them, right? So there's a sandbag workstation. There's a fun, cool strongman station. There's an animal movement station. Totally optional. If you want to do them as much or as little as you you get points. And whoever has the most points for that division at the end wins. That's it. That's as scary as it is. And the reason we built it that way is if we can have something that is sustainable and something that scales and that is achievable in a way that people can measure it again and again. So, hey, I did a 10-hour race a couple years ago in the middle of the woods, and I did this many laps and I got this much distance. Hey, I'm going to go do this other type of race, and it's got a time frame, and I want to see how much I can go. I love that format. The first time World's Toughest Mudders had that format for a long time. Spartan Ultra World Champs. I did the one in Iceland in 2018. I love that format. Sisu has a really cool 24-hour and 24-hour Pacific Northwest run, and it's
that's what I was thinking was a Sisu 24 because that's BeastNet has been 3rd place the last 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So
going for second this year.
Huh?
Going for second this year?
Oh, we're going for it. But it's one of those, you know, it's such a fun event. And that's what I was thinking when you're saying it. I love those because it gives you a whole different challenge. You're not just running, you're doing these challenges, you're doing other things, you know, and it gives you something to do. Now, is it all going to be individual basis or is it going to be like Sisu where it's a team?
All individual basis this year. So a couple people have brought up teams. I'm not sure if we're going to do that or not. It just really depends what people want to do. And I think feedback for that. So far, I've not had a ton of people ask me about, hey, can I do this as a team? Nothing wrong with folks going and running together and being together. But if that's something that folks like and they want to, that's a pretty easy thing to add, I think, for this year or maybe next year. But we've talked about it, but haven't committed to it fully. So if that's something you'd like to see or other folks do, please let me know. Yell at me.
It's one of those things that, honestly, the first year, doing it as individuals, I think will be great. And then, see what happens for like next year. Like I said, I know Sisu does both. And that's the only reason why I was thinking teams, because we've done the teams a couple of years. But also, the teams are weird anyway in that too, because where we don't, we really run it as an individual race. We just all do our own things, but we're also looking at like, oh, if we do this, we can have this, because it's still individual points that just add into the team, So it's kind of one of those that, where we've been lucky the last couple of years, we've learned doing Sisu, you learn the tricks because we're not the fastest. We learn the little tricks on how to get the points, and that's what it comes down to sometimes. Because I know, like for the fastest, I'm not the fastest. I can keep going for a long period of time, but if you learn where you can get the points, and that's what's kind of cool about that one is you can stop and do, like you were saying, there's a sandbag station and do all that other stuff where I can earn some points. Not be the fastest, but get those extra points by doing stuff like that.
And that's exactly why we split it into 2 different divisions. For one, just pure running, and one where it's hybrid, and it's a little bit more like, oh, I'm tough. I want to do tough stuff. Like, cool. We'll give you the option to do that in separate categories. So something we're trying this year is top 5 performers overall for 5K plus 10-hour running. So we're calling that Infinity K. And then the Infinity K hybrid, right? Top 5 performers in each category get a special prize. And it's regardless of gender, right? We thought about doing like a male, female, and MX gender division, but we figured we'd try it out this year and just see top 5 overall. We can dive into the semantics of like, biology and, advantages here and there and what have you. But I figured just for the first year, we would try that and just see how people feel about it. Like if they like that or they don't like it in practice. I mean, worst case scenario is folks hate it and they're like, I'm never coming back. And all right, well, we learned our lesson, I guess.
Well, that's it. It's learning and dealing with this stuff. I mean, it's, the situation of the world. I mean, it's everyone always talks about, the gender and whatever. It is what it is. But I mean, look at, selection this year. Who were the top 2?
Badass ladies.
Yeah. And I mean, that's amazing. So, I mean, and a lot of this stuff, I mean, when there's the points and the endurance and everything else, I mean, you've got the, I know a lot of women that'll outdo more every man I know in the endurance stuff. It's just, they have a lot more grit and they just go for it, so it really comes down to with a lot of the stuff you're talking about is the grit, not the necessarily the speed.
Oh yeah. Well, in endurance running, endurance sport, things like selection, hurricane heats, beast breaker and ghost that we've done in prior years, like nothing against you dudes. I love you dudes. You're awesome. You're badasses. But like the ladies are always like, they've got grit, they've got strength, they've got drive. I think they have a heck of a lot higher pain tolerance in general than dudes. Like by the time I'm whining, right, and crying, like my wife is like 3 miles ahead of me and she's leaving me in the dust, right?
Like, where you at? Come on, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and actually, I don't know if I told you, but the 24-hour hurricane heat back in 17, like I was going to DNF it. I was going to fail a time hack for a 2 sandbag carry. And Janelle came back after she'd already completed it, pulled my ass out of the mud, grabbed my sandbags and said, let's go. You're not going to DNF. Like, whoa, it was awesome.
Yeah. And that's it. I think a lot of times too with the women, it's like, because I mean, it sounds, I guess it does or doesn't sound bad to say this. They feel like they have something to prove because everyone always looks at them differently because they're women. And I'm like, I mean, I would, in many cases, I've been on a lot of teams where I'm like, I will pick, some of my female friends over the guys every time because I know they're going to push. They're going to be ones pushing me going, let's go. I mean, that was one thing on Sisu. I mean, if it wasn't for Chris and Serena pushing me the whole time, Ted did a great job too. I didn't see him much. He just kind of did his thing. I'm like, whatever. So, but
he was making memes in the forest while he was.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and playing with the bear that was stealing his energy drinks.
I love that. So yeah, to your point, man, like there's a lot of great races out there. Sisu, homegrown, awesome, great people. We wanted to have something that was shorter but achievable, but at a time frame that was somebody could pop in, work really hard for a time frame that felt like it was more than a few hours, more than just a regular run, but also something that they could scale down where if they do a couple laps and they want to call it, they're good. And so 10 hours felt like a good thing to do. And that way too, like if folks want to use it as a practice trial run, like, hey, 24 hours is scary. And trust me, it's not, you should go sign up for the CC24 like right now. It's awesome.
If you do, use BeastNet mic. Oh no, actually, I think what is it? Is BeastNet Premium? I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. It might be BeastNet mic is the code. You get a discount if you use my name. But
Well, there you go. I love that.
but I love it because, like you're saying, it's May 20th, which literally is a month before Sisu. So if you're planning on doing Sisu, you want a good practice run May 20th.
Yeah.
You know,
there you
it's
go.
a month. I mean, that's a 10-hour instead of the 20. It's a good practice run. See where you're at. Get a feel for what you're doing. Where is it at?
Montesano. So it's Montesano, Washington, and Grays Harbor County. The family of GH Unders, the Winkleman family, has a really beautiful property out there, 110 acres right next to Weyerhaeuser BLM land, which has another several hundreds of acres there, and it's just gorgeous. You've got a little bit of everything. The only thing you probably don't have are very technical rock face scrambles. And I think there's a couple smaller ones. There's a couple areas maybe you might see those at Camp Shepherd with Sisu, which are actually a lot of fun. Those used to intimidate the crap out of me. But so I think you won't run into that, but you will run into a small bog area, right? So it gets a little soupy while you're running through it. There's some very, very technical terrain. There's a couple areas we actually have to cordon off because there's was some sinkholes where there was some gas that had escaped from underground, right? So there's a couple areas that we have to kind of keep off limits and keep people away from. But very lush, very much so Southern Olympic National Park rainforest area, so heavily wooded, tons of greenery. It has that really deep, earthy smell everywhere you go. You'll find salamanders everywhere. I really mean everywhere. And they get so much cool animals down there too. So they've got trail cameras everywhere, and they've gotten everything from, bear to cougar to a massive elk herd that comes through every September, October. It's a really, really cool area.
It is.
And we actually didn't plan it to be almost exactly a month ahead of time. When we were looking at dates with them, they gave us about 4 or 5 dates, and a lot of them were kind of competing with the big local events already. Like Summit to Swamp in April. One of them was like the weekend after Sisu 24. One of them was, what was it? September. It was either on the same weekend or right next to the same weekend as the big Seattle Spartan race weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those just didn't feel right. Like, I didn't want it to compete with a lot of the big area events. I wanted it to be something that, hey, maybe people are coming out of their winter shell. Maybe they haven't done anything, like some of the local OCRs down in Portland, like My Muddy Battle on Time or Dirty Leprechaun. Maybe they didn't do that. Maybe they kind of coming out of hibernation. They need something to test themselves on. That's kind of where that mentality was for the May timeframe.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's good too, because that's one thing that's nice, is because that's one thing I've had a lot of talks with people about, the race schedule up here. And that's one of the biggest problems I have with living in the Northwest. It's like, because I've been getting into triathlons.
Yeah.
In triathlons, you have June to September. That's it.
Yeah.
After September, there's not another triathlon until June. And, and when we have our OCRs, it's like one of those things I was telling someone, like, the OCRs and triathlons both, I mean, from May to September, I destroy my body because I'm doing race after race, like every other weekend, or sometimes like during the August and September, it was every single weekend I was doing an OCR or a triathlon and just wrecking my body. And everyone's like, why? And I'm like, because after September, I have until the next race, and if I don't leave town, isn't until June.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like this, it's like 70, 80, 90% of like everything outside of like some actually fun trail races and pavement races. They're all scheduled in that like June, September timeframe. Try to do anything else there. Like, it's trying to like coordinate a camping trip with folks that race during that timeframe is horrible. Like, hey, I'm camping. I won passes to the enchantments, once in a lifetime backpacking trip. And people will be like, oh man, I just booked 10 flights and 72 races, and I'm going to be literally not here for 4 months, but go have fun. It's a logistical nightmare.
Oh, it is. And that's why, I mean, looking at May is a good one. May 20th. I mean, like I said, that puts us, I mean, the only really OCR before that would be if you go to Montana, but local stuff, I mean, the only ones would be down, in Portland doing, like you said, My Muddy Valentine and
Summit to Swamp and at the end of April.
Summit to Swamp at the end of April. So I mean, other than that, I mean, and Summit to Swamp's just fun. I mean, I just love doing Summit to Swamp. That is so much fun. But it's just, yeah, I mean, it's looking at all those, and I mean, I think May is good.
Treasure hunt heat last year that I really loved. Totally optional. And you had to take, like, for some people they could run it and look, or some people were just looking for this treasure, and you had all these clues and you had to go throughout the course and go find whatever the treasure were. You had certain hints where it might be, and then you'd have to bring like little proof, like, okay, you found this and this, and you got a prize. And it was actually really cool. There was a family that had some special needs children that were like did not want to be athletes, did not want to be active, and they were like having the best time hiking around, like looking for treasure. Like you could see their eyes just light up, and that was cool, man. So I talked to Hazel Anna just about a week or two ago, and she's getting ready to open up registration. She had some big life stuff happen, like a lot of us have the last couple of years, and so she's not going to be able to get registration out till about now-ish. But one of the big things, she was like, I'm expanding the treasure hunt this year. I'm going to go into it, and it was really cool to see how jazzed she was about that.
That was fun. We were just rolling because that was the thing is, I mean, all of us, we were, it was just, we were having fun with it. We were just hiking around, looking at all the stuff, trying to find the treasure, having a blast. So it was fun. It was a blast. So I've always loved that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, we've got the trail mix, the 5K and Infinity K divisions, May 20th. And we're going to donate 60% of the net proceeds. So we haven't announced the third charity, but I think you probably already know. So we're going to give 20% to 3 different charities. So Idaho Trails Association, Trail Keepers of Oregon, and then Washington Trails Association.
Nice.
So many beasts and people that I run into hike, camp, trail run. They've gone to this one place to go train. Like they've used trails in Oregon and Idaho, and it just felt like, I don't know, the right thing to do. And they're really fun people to work with. They're like excited when you say like, hey, we're going to do a race and we want to donate some money. It could be $5. It could be like, we don't know. And they're like, dude, that is cool. We would like to celebrate that. Like they just get
awesome. That is awesome. I mean, it's good to give back. I mean, that's one of the nice things is to give back, it's the thing that keeps us going.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. What else are we doing for trail mix? There's for the hybrid division, there's a company called Ruck Straps, and they're donating 5 ruck straps for the top 5 finishers. Those are pretty cool. Those are those super fancy cable webbing clips that you put on and you can use to alleviate pressure on your spine and your thoracic spine. So like, or your shoulders, because you ruck especially heavy or a long time, you start getting like kind of those slumped shoulders, and it can result, especially if you've got bad form and gone too long, maybe in spinal compression. So a lot of people, like they'll pull them up or pull them forward to kind of alleviate that pressure, take it off of their traps and stuff. And so yeah, they donated some to give out. That's pretty cool. Summit to Swamp is giving us some entries to give away. It's kind of a raffle, so that'll be super fun. Yeah, I'm not sure. We've got some other stuff in the mix that I can't announce just yet, from GH Unders and some other fun local companies, but we're trying to make it just fun and silly and approachable. I think the only thing we haven't cemented yet is I like pancakes a lot. And if we should do like a post-race pancake feed where we just make pancakes for people if they want them for funsies. Awesome. And or like have like maybe a place where like I can make pancakes for folks, and maybe we could have like a s'more station for like families or people that like want something a little sugary or whatever afterwards.
Well, that could be fun.
Yeah, s'mores, man, they're awesome.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. That's fun. I mean, it's cool to see stuff like that come back. Cause that's one of my, like I said, one of my biggest issues I've always had here is we don't get enough races. It's like for me to get like races in, I have to leave. I have to go travel. So, and a lot of times it's like, if I want to do the Spartan races or anything like that, if I want any more than 3, I pretty much got to leave.
Well,
we have the one weekend.
I think they're going to have a lighter schedule for the next couple of years. I think there's a lot of stuff that went on, right? COVID obviously hit their registration numbers. I think, buying some very big companies, not just like Tough Mudder and Warrior Dash, but there was the paddle race, there was the bike one, a few others I can't remember, but like buying all that stuff and then having like registrations like drop dramatically for several years. I mean, right, I know people that like, I have to have my 10 Spartans a month, but I think realistically they're probably running a few less races just to try to make sure they don't financially overburden themselves for a year or two, right?
I get it, but it's just one of those things. Like I said, it's where we have that like 4 year or 4 month window here where we get races. That's why it's so cool to see another one come in. Because me, I like the local races. I like supporting local and everything like that, and trying to help out local people. Because I mean, the big boys that come here, like I said, once a month, once a week, one weekend a month. And now it's like pretty much Spartans here, and then 2 weeks later, it's Tough Mudder. So I mean,
this year they're back to back.
Yeah, they're basically back to back. So and like, what was it last year? It ended up being like Spartan. Then I did the Ironman, and then actually this year it was, I literally did the Portland Spartan Sunday or Saturday, Ironman Sunday, and the next weekend I was at Tough Mudder.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, wonder why my body's messed up. But
well, and periodization says, it takes 4 to 12 weeks for us to be at our peak for something, right? So having no break and just going, and like, oh, I'm gonna taper for 3 days, or I'm gonna do one less rep. Like, your body.
Like I said, that's what happens for like 4 months, because here in Washington we get those 4 months of races, so you're constantly just like, you're basically weekend after weekend after weekend. And like I said, it was pretty much in August I hit the Seattle Spartan, did the full trifecta weekend. The very next weekend I was in Hawaii doing a trifecta weekend. And then I flew home, and the weekend after that I did a sprint triathlon. And then I think it was the very next weekend, it was Portland and Ironman. And then the weekend after that was Tough Mudder. And it was like 6 or 7 weekends in a row where it was, and it wasn't like the little races. Like I said, trifecta weekend, Ironman. And it's like, I'm wondering when I come out of, September, why I'm like, why does my body hurt everywhere?
Well, and, the thing people, to build exactly on the thing that people don't like hearing with this love for this type of hobby, punishment, whatever you want to call it, is that the more you do that, right, the more you have those like high intensity, especially if you're going for it, the higher your risk of injury is over time in that time frame. Like if you look at a lot of OCR seasons for folks, right, they start April to June and end somewhere between like August to November, and you'll see a lot of people on social media talk about an injury somewhere between like that, like late July to October timeframe. It could be like, oh, I twisted my ankle, to like, oh, I pulled something in my knee or my back, and it sucks. Obviously, I don't want that on anybody, but I think, if you're going to plan tons of races, 5-8 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, do them all, full speed. But now I'm like, you know what? Go do them, have fun, but maybe, all right, for this race, it's 60% max energy. I'm not going more than 60%, and I'm just going to have fun. And I think if we take that attitude, we could probably race a little bit more safely versus like max time, max speed, right? Throw out.
Yeah, I know. And that was kind of my thing this year, because I think it was Sisu. It was either Sisu or right before, because I did June was another month where I just pushed every weekend with something. Pretty much almost every weekend from June to like September was something. I pulled something in my calf during Sisu. Well, I never had a break after Sisu. So I was still going, I was still running, I was still doing 100 miles a month. I was still doing everything and pushing. So by the time all of a sudden it came through like the, after Ironman, and I bid it on Ironman, my calf, I mean, if I ran like more than 100 feet, my calf felt like someone like was sticking a hot poker in the back of my leg. And I'm like, I wonder why that's not healing. I don't know, maybe because you're not stopping. So that was kind of like why after the Ironman and after Tough Mudder, I'm like, I let the 100 miles a month stop. I just dropped it. I'm like, I need to let my leg heal. I need to let my calf heal. It's going to suck. I mean, I gained like 30 pounds back, but I can lose that again. I just needed that. Let my body heal. Let my body get to where it is, because, you know, at our age, we don't come back that fast. So,
well, especially once you start talking like tendon and joint injuries too, right? Like, because let's be real, like running for a hard year, right? Losing some weight, you're building a lot of like muscular strength and endurance, but like tendon integrity takes so much longer to grow strength and like resilience, right? And you could have a year of solid gains, and then like a year and a half later, you're like, oh, and gone for a year, right? I just went through that with my elbow. Like I overcame a multifidus tear in 2021. So that's that spaghetti looking muscle up your back that gives you like lumbar support. So I tore that, being dumb because I got hungry to put more plates on the bar, and got better. And I started getting a little too aggressive, and my elbow started feeling tired, if that makes sense. And I was like, you know what? I'm just imagining. I'm going to put some CBD lotion on it. I'm good. And then one day I was like, oh, that's a little much, but I'm going to go do that. And like a month and a half ago, and I was like, ooh, that zinged. I knew it. I did it. I pushed myself just too hard, and my body was literally telling me, my intuition was like, don't do that today. And now I've got tennis elbow. Working through that.
And that's one of those things. I think we hit that point where hopefully as we get older, we hit that, start to understand like, hey, at certain points, our body's going to be like, we got to start listening.
Yeah.
When we're younger, I mean, a little thing like, you know, I mean, not little thing, but like your elbow starts to bug you a little bit. You push through, whatever, it hurts for a few days. You take a break for a week and you're fine. You get past 30, or like in my case, past 40, and all of a sudden it's like, you know,
oh yeah,
like I said, a little twinge in my calf. We're like 9 months later, and I'm still like, it'll be okay for a little bit, and then I'll step just right, and it's like, ting, hello, don't forget about me. And I'm like, son of a, you know.
Somebody once told me the injuries that you can just power through in your teens and 20s come back to start haunting you in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. I had a big snowboarding accident almost 14 years ago. Just gnarly, like hospital, separated my shoulders, dislocated my hips, or my knee, jacked up my hip. And like every once in a while, like I'll be working through like a mobility routine to stretch, and like my shoulder will click, and like it's not a nice sound. It's weird. Like I feel great, like mobility wise there, muscle integrity is there, but like the way that it healed, right? And I just powered through it. You know, probably should not have. Don't recommend that, guys. If you separate your shoulders, go get treatment. Don't power through it.
Don't. I have that. Yeah, because I have my left shoulder will dislocate, and I've done it on races, and I just pop it back into place and continue on going. And now I have like major issues where I have that. If I move just right, you can just click, 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 because it didn't heal quite right. So yeah, eventually I'm probably going to have surgery on it, but I'm like, if I keep ignoring it, maybe it won't happen. Yeah. But
my doctor told me like, hey, we can go in and do more damage now, and it might be better, or we could wait till, you know, your late 50s to 60s and then go in there and fix it, and maybe you're got a good quality of life, right? Like the cool party trick I had of making it click tons, not that cool anymore.
It comes back to get us.
Yeah. So we're doing trail mix this year. We've got a couple other events that are opening up for registration later. We've got one called Ghost, which we've done 5-6 years now, and that's a team versus team competitive endurance, choose your own kind of race. We're going to change it a little bit this year to be kind of similar to how we ran it in 2019, so very highly competitive but with a centralized scoring system. So the way that we did scoring in 2019, it was a little bit more subjective. Like I could look at something and be like, well, that tower isn't tall enough, I'm going to give you half a point. So it's very black and white. Like you got those points, good, you're winning. And a little bit more kind of adventure, covertly things this year versus previous years. So one of the things that insurance says we can't do anymore is steal a burning log from another team's outpost, which was really cool. So we can't do that, but more things like that where it's not necessarily nefarious, like go take that backpack off that person, but silly things, just to kind of, I don't know, make people feel like secret agents in the woods. Like this.
Well, why'd you tell me you're stealing burning logs, weirdo?
Yeah, I don't know. I got a big mouth. So it's got that.
Everything.
Yeah, that's true. And then we're doing it's going to be our, I don't know if it's either going to be our last one or we'll see how people are receptive to it, but we're mixing up a kind of the first event that I ever started leading was Beast Breaker back in 16. And so we're calling it Beast Breaker Trials so far. We might have to change the name. And instead of just a 12-hour suckfest of craziness, it's a strength and athletic competition. So we've got about 12 different trial areas that have made the cut. And it's for every area you get points based off your finishing position. And then at the end, we total everything up and see how many points you got. So like there's a small trail running loop. There's a swamp rock section. There's a burden carry through a river. We have a really cool powerlifting section with something called a Saxon bar. So instead of a conventional deadlift bar, it's 4 inches by 3 inches. And so you have to grip it with like an elongated pinch grip to do like a deadlift. And axe throwing, and some other fun stuff, right? So some things that are, athleticism based and some skill based stuff. There's a knot tying section, which is super nerdy and it's going to throw some people off. And it'll be a little bit like spear throw for Spartan, where it's like people are like, how is this fitness, right? Yeah. But I think it's there to, kind of even the playing field a little bit and, try to have people learn new things.
Sounds a lot like a little bit like the Rise Challenge events that she'd have sometimes, where she had the different, in some ways. And I loved those. Except without the shooting. That was the fun part. But
I'm trying to actually get Tammy to come up for that one in October. So that'll be October 14th, 15th. This year. I'm trying to get Tammy to come up for that because she just does she's got such awesome energy and she's just a great person. And I don't think that she's going to be doing a Rise event this year.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But if she drops that, we got to get down there and go because
if she does, I'm going.
So much fun.
I did all of them last year. I did them the last 2 years. I love the Rise Challenge events. I love racing with Tammy. I love doing stuff with her because I even did the one like this last year where it was the whole weekend. You were there. You did the rock with us on Monday though, where we did the Murph.
No, I wasn't there for that one.
Yeah, we did the Murph where we hiked up the hill and then did everything at the top of the hill. So I mean, it was a blast. And I mean, it's so much fun doing stuff with her, and her events were just always, and I actually like that where they had the knot tying and stuff like that, because it's a skill you don't really have. And if you're out doing an endurance stuff, that knot tying really helps, and they had a lot of the knot tying. And then like if you came down for the ranch challenge, you had to lasso a horse. There was all sorts of stuff. So, I mean,
so hard too.
It wasn't a real horse though. It was a fake horse, but whatever. But I mean, it was a lot of fun, and I like those because that's kind of the fun. Like I've mentioned it before, where it has those things like we've done the Spartans, we've done those, and we've done the endurance stuff. But what about some of the fun stuff? And you throw those knot tying and some of that stuff, and I love it when there's extra just stuff you're not expecting. Keeps me on your toes.
Yeah, one of my favorite weird, I don't want to say weird, but one of my favorite memories of like non-conventional athleticism and skills was the keg lift for time that Tammy did at her Rise event race in 2020. And I think you saw me on that one. One of my first lifts, I smashed it right into my face, knocked myself dizzy. I'm pretty sure I was concussed a little bit. So I still have a divot on my chin from that keg. But
I remember because I was like, I'm walking over like, Adam, are you okay? Because I mean, you're like, you kind of see that dazed look, and it's like, Yeah.
I definitely think I gave myself a concussion. I'm not sure if I should brag about that, but ladies and gentlemen,
that was football. We would have been taking
the face with the keg. Don't do it.
I love the idea of it though. I mean, having the keg with partly filled with sand. I mean, it's a cool little idea, but if you had it just wrong and it shifted, and I think that's kind of what it did to you, wasn't it? Just kind of shifted weird and just kind of slipped out of your hand.
I think it was closer to the end, and I was really trying to get a couple extra reps. And I think, to be honest, I got sloppy and I wasn't paying attention, and I just didn't move my face out of the way.
And that was what she had a lot of those unconventionals. Cause like the last one we did with her, where she had like all the bells, the kettlebells, and we had to pick them up, take them to the other end, and bring them back. And I can remember it because Dave was all mad at me because he did it right before me, and he was taking them like 2 at a time or something. And I walked up and like slid my hands between all the handles and grabbed them and just took them all in one shot. And he's like, and I'm like, hey man, she didn't say how many trips we had to take.
Yeah.
I just had to take them to the other side. It's not my fault. My arms are small enough to get to the handles.
That was a good time, dude. I love those things. So ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're listening, and Tammy down in Bend, Oregon puts on a Rise event, make sure you sign up.
All right,
She's great people, and she makes it fun.
And they're always different. Like this year, they had some of those things that throwing the Atlas ball through the freaking hoop, or the you start off and you're strong. And I remember because I started, I was like, yeah, this is great. And then you got to like 8 or 9, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah.
My neuromuscular system is dead. I'll come back tomorrow, guys.
And then you should smoke your arms and all that, and then now go shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Like, oh great, now my arms are shaking, and I'm like,
my aim. It's everyone stay way over there because I can aim that way in general, and that.
But I mean, the gun one, and which was cool, but I mean, that had its spot. You had to be able to do where she was lucky. She had, the inn with the shooting range plus Liberation firearms and all that. I mean, that would be, I couldn't see that happening at like, Beast Breaker or something like that. Cause I mean, you're not going to do it at a shooting range. How are you going to get out there to know everything and the insurance and the safety? I'm like, it'd be fun, but
I get enough crap around the axe throwing as it is. Insurance wise, like I try not to be able to never put on an event again. Right? Let's just not do that. Oh man, you want to hear something kind of fun? So after tonight, I am going to grab. I just got some flippers. So it's like swimming flippers, and go into the gym to play with them. Going to be doing some animal movements, some lifts and stuff while wearing flippers on my hands, on my feet and stuff for the Arizona hurricane heat at the end of next month. So super nerdy. A quick little preview. The theme is Water Temple from Zelda Ocarina of Time. So for any super nerds out there, if you remember the Water Temple, that's literally what the event is themed about, and we're building everything around. And we'll see if we have flippers as a required item. Super nerdy, but I figured you'd appreciate that.
That is pretty cool. That'll be cool. I mean, that'll be a cool one. So that's one of those things I haven't done. I'll be honest, I have not done a hurricane heat since 2016.
Yeah. Well, I think the scheduling has been kind of crazy the last, 4 or 5 years. It used to be like a Friday night, like 6 or 7, or like a Saturday night right after. And there's been some wild schedules. Like there was one this last year where it was like 8 a.m. the same day as a Beast.
Yeah.
Like, and I definitely sent my feedback up the channel, like, guys, come on. Like, you want people to show up, don't do that. And I think
I was okay with it
for this year, but there's only about a dozen or so this year.
Yeah, I was okay when they were the night before, and I think that was just kind of it. And I kind of had my phone, for 15 and 16, and then I was thinking about it, in 20, then everything shut down, and then when it came back, but there was a bunch of them where I looked at them and like, oh, this would be, oh no, that's not gonna. The timing was just weird. There was like one that was right after the Beast, but then I'm like, I don't know, depending on which group I'm with, how soon I'm gonna be done, and I don't want to be rushing to try and finish the Beast so I can make it to the hurricane heat. And I'm just like, yeah. Because there was a couple, like there was one, because I saw you guys. I think it was still in the morning you were finishing up. One of them stopped and gave Dave a hug in Portland, and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's I think scheduling can be tough with those, especially too, once you've done, a few races, right? And you kind of mature as a racer, just in general. You have your things you love and things that are, still fun. And then you've got your priority, right? So if you're trying to hit 5 trifectas and that's the only thing that matters, the hurricane heat might not be super exciting for you. But I think it's kind of evolved in the last several years. So I had to say theme, right? So I mentioned Water Temple, right? Super dorky, but like we did Joshua Tree, it was Mario Kart, and we literally not like a hurricane heat at all. It wasn't just straight PT and rucking and that was it. We literally had people in teams of thematic racing. We had one where it was, if you tossed a green glow stick at another team's cart, they had to do jumping jacks, right? And it was madness. There were so many green glow sticks running around and people green shelling each other. It was hilarious. People are laughing and just having a good time, right? And it wasn't easy, but so I think they've evolved a little bit too, where you're going to see a lot more like thematic and silly events. So it's not kind of like, I think there's a stereotype where there's a lot of folks like, oh, I've done a Spartan Hurricane heat. I've done them all. And I think it's just trying to move away from that and just bring a quality event that's fun and silly, but also tough.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Which, I mean, that was kind of thing I think where I had a problem where it was more, I'm not big on that. I have fun with certain things. If it's a fun event and I'm having fun, I don't mind it sucking. But like, I think the second one I did, which was fine. I mean, I had fun with it and everything because the group I was with, but I think that's my biggest thing. If I went to go do one and if it's not with a group of people I want to be with, I don't think I would have fun unless it's something like that where you're talking about like the Mario Kart. That sounds fun.
It was awesome.
But that was the thing. It's like the people I was with made the hurricane heats. But other than that, it was basically like PT and I was getting my ass handed to me the whole time.
Yeah.
And
so if it happens, this might be up your alley. I don't know when, and I don't know if it's 100% approved, but we're trying to bring a trifecta hurricane heat weekend to the West Coast. It'll probably be California, and I don't know when. I'm going to be doing either the 12 or the 24-hour section. I'm trying to either have that section or the entire event, Lord of the Rings themed. And if we do the entire event, probably Hobbit plus Lord of the Rings. So for folks that are big fans of that stuff, like, can you imagine like middle of the night trying to sneak past folks and to get to Mordor to destroy the ring? Like, that sounds like fun.
It does.
Right? Yeah,
it does.
So,
sounds like
not officially on the books yet, but that's what I've been working on. And I'm hoping in the next week and a half, that goes live and we can make that happen.
That would be awesome. Well, I'm hoping to hear about that.
Yeah, man.
That does sound fun. Right on. Well, we're hitting close to that hour mark where Don gets all mad at me if I go past it. But
well, thanks for having me on the show and joking and talking smack and life lessons, man. This has been a great time. It's been really cool seeing BeastNet just explode and really become this thing where like I'm seeing it in all sorts of places, and you guys have just been crushing it and just absolutely growing. So thanks for having me. Thanks for putting up with me, man. And thanks for bringing a really cool podcast to the community, man. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and you can always tell there's ones out there where they're just, they're doing it to do it for whatever reason. But there's that kind of genuine authenticity where after a while it kind of feels like it's just a thing. But I think, long time listener and seeing BeastNet evolve over so many years, man, like you guys have kept your soul, and that is freaking cool.
We've tried to. So, and it's good to have you on. I mean, it's, you were there in the beginning and everything else when this all started. So it's one of those things. It's been a while since we had you on, with COVID and everything else and other things happening. It's, but it's good to have you back on and everything like that. And I can't wait to see, how Trail Mix goes and all this other stuff. I'm going to have to possibly sign up. I got to see where I'm going to be at in May.
Well, if you or Don or somebody else can make it out, we can have a table for you and you can interview folks and get some pancakes or s'mores or something.
That'd be fun. So yeah, it's one of those things I'm hoping. But like I said, there's a good chance that, I mean, if things go the way they're supposed to, I won't be in Washington then. So, but we'll see. I might come back for that. So I'm trying to find as many reasons as I can to come back for stuff. But
I love it. Cool, man. Well, thanks for your time and hanging out, man. And looking forward to the next episode.
All right. Thank you. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet Podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook. Like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.